good morning, good afternoon, good night. However you're watching, wherever you're watching, however you're listening, wherever you're listening, it is the Bet Online Salute to Troy podcast. It's Tuesday, and we got the tripod here. The good old tripod, the trusty tripod, the bearded brothers. Jamal told us he just shaved 3 minutes ago, and so his shadow's already back. But I'm going to roll it to the founder himself, Ryan. Good evening. How are you doing today?
Good evening to you. Good. It was a good busy weekend, and glad to be back in the lab talking. We're finally getting to DBs today, so talking this defensive back room with new coach Belk and what it's going to look like. But how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm making it through. Treading through. No complaints this way. Madman, big smile on your face. How are you doing?
Doing okay, Fred. Great to see you. I'm glad we all got the memo about the facial hair, but I must have missed the memo about the baseball cap. So I apologize for that. But great to do this as always on a great Monday evening.
Somebody left a comment and thought it was I was wearing a Dallas Cowboys hat. I am not wearing a Dallas Cowboys hat.
It's Los Angeles Dodgers.
This
baby.
is the Dodgers farm
Dodgers.
system. This is the Tulsa Drillers. This is 100% Dodgers. So I will never wear a Dallas Cowboys hat on the LAFB network. Anyway, moving forward, we're talking DBs today. Apparently, there's been no big news because we're finally breaking down our depth chart, right? So we've been, this is about 3-4 months coming, right? There's been news after news after news. We thought we were going to have some breaking news out of Michigan. We saw that this weekend. I think they're still working on that. So we'll let that one percolate on the back burner still until it finally becomes a rolling boil. As my mom always says, a watch pot never boils. So if that one pops, that'll be big news, and we'll be on talking about that one. DBs. Let's get into DBs. Let's go from back to front first. So we'll talk safeties. We'll talk safeties first, and then we'll get into corners. How does that sound for you, gentlemen?
Sounds good. That was your position, right? Safety?
That was my position. I was a safety, even though I played linebacker in high school, but I was only $189 going into college. So I was too small to play linebacker, but I was big enough to play safety. Those big Pete Carroll safeties.
There you go.
Love it.
Yeah. All right. So let's start off with a common name, right? We have a common name, a big name. Excuse me for my eyes. My allergies just kicked in for some reason. Anyway, this has been a big name in USC this year, but he plays on the opposite side of the ball. Went through injury, but to me, I thought he would play very well, right? If he gets healthy, he is a Trojan at heart. I'm talking about, I don't want to say the wrong name, Zion Branch. I was about to say Zachariah Branch, but Zion Branch. Zion Branch. He is a Trojan. I don't see them going anywhere. They're going to stick to USC. They are Trojans. The key is he just needs to get healthy. But he has, I got my little sheet here. I want to see what year he is, because I think he is young too, right? How far apart are they from each other?
They're 1 year apart, I believe.
So Zion is a redshirt freshman. You're right. And Zachariah is a true freshman. So they're pretty much in the same class. So he has another 3 years, because this will be a sophomore year, junior, senior. Yep, 3 years. That will be a big plug for USC, especially with somebody we're going to talk about later on in the safety room. So this might be good for him to get healthy. You know what I mean? And then he'll come back his junior year. You get 2 years out of him. What do you guys think about Zion Branch?
Yeah, I mean, tons of talent. He's flashed like how good he can be. Everyone talks about his brother Zachariah, but Zion, I think, has shown and got a lot of love in fall camp, and unfortunately just couldn't stay healthy. So not a lot of tape on him, but the bloodline's there, the talent's there, and his biggest, I guess, I think this is good for the room, but I mean it's a pretty deep room now, which is, you couldn't maybe say that last year, and we'll get to all of it, but some guys transferring in and whatnot, and where he kind of lies in is, he's got a battle to get playing time, which is great for competition and great for this unit, with the new coaching staff, but tons of talent. Hopefully he can just stay healthy and put it all together, because whether it's special teams or whether it's spot starting or whether it's, certain dime packages or whatever it may be, he's definitely a force that is a good addition to this defense when he's out there.
What about you, man? What do you think?
Yeah, no, completely agree. I mean, he's sort of scratching the surface of what he can do. There's a ton of that branch DNA that falls both on the offensive as well as the defensive side of the ball. I think Ryan said it best: there's a lot of depth at this position in particular, but yet there's no kind of alpha that's emerged. And so in years past with the secondary, corner, safety, less depth, but you sort of had a clear-cut number one. You had a Calen Bullock, you had a Blackman, you had guys that you would sort of rally the unit and position group around. Here, it's a lot deeper, but everyone's sort of jockeying for who's going to really step up into those leadership roles. And so someone like a Branch who's shown a lot of promise comes back in another year of continuity. He's going to be there for the long haul with his brother. All of those are kind of the ingredients for a significant leadership role, as well as just tremendous athleticism. There's a quickness there. It just, all the tools are there. Just a matter maybe of him putting on perhaps 5 to 7 more pounds of muscle to just, be able to endure a full college season and stay healthy. But all the tools are there. Really excited about how he develops in the offseason and going into next year.
The thing I like about Zion is the fact that he could play down in the box also.
Yeah,
that's one of the best things about him. Like, if you need a true roll down safety, which I think will help him go into the NFL because he could play that roll down in the box safety that a lot of teams are starting to play. He plays down in the box a lot. He actually got hurt, if I'm not mistaken, playing down in the box, but he'll go down, he'll make contact, he'll hit you, he'll play down in the box. Moving on, this next kid showed up in the Holiday Bowl. Like, wow, where has he been all year? He's a redshirt sophomore. He just surprised everybody. I think he had I don't think he was the one that had a bunch of tackles. Ryan will correct me. But Anthony Beavers Jr. Was he the one that had the bunch of all the tackles, or was that the other? That was Anthony Beavers? Okay.
He had a really good game. Jaylin Smith had like the 30 tackles.
Okay, yeah. We'll get to Jaylin Smith. Yeah. So Anthony Beavers Jr. And so we'll just go off of what have you done for me lately, right? And like I say, SC has the best advantage out of any Division I football team because they got to play a spring game. They actually got to evaluate their depth chart against a 10-3 team, right? Anthony Beavers played that Holiday Bowl, and he played very well. Even though they were on a big rotation, you heard his name a lot. He was flying around the field. The upside for him is great. The only thing now is what's next. You know what I mean? How much – and it's going to be a lot of this for a lot of these kids, but how much can you grow from Louisville? Is complacency going to be a thing? Have you hit your peak, or are we going to see something very good? Or are you going to make all the finalist lists and be a big name? Jamal, what do you think about Anthony Beavers Jr.?
I just love the way he competed in the Holiday Bowl and just kind of got after it. There was a number of different plays there where there were Louisville players in space. It was sort of a one-on-one situation, and Beavers was able to make the play. He was either able to kind of stuff the wide receiver outright or limit the gain and just kind of go mano-a-mano. And so I think there was tremendous kind of competitiveness, number one. I think he's got great instincts for where guys are going. He sort of squares up his body, and there's no hesitation. Sometimes guys in the secondary, when they're, sort of trying to defend a player with the ball in kind of a yak situation, they're always kind of retreating and giving up yards because they don't want to kind of give up the big play. Beavers is very different. He goes and attacks these guys, and he's not afraid to kind of whiff. And in the process, he makes tremendous plays. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that aggression and how just that raw instinct for the ball then plays within structure. I think the benefit that Beavers had in the Holiday Bowl, he was asked to just go play football, go be instinctive, don't think, and just, follow the guy with the ball. It was just a very simple approach given the circumstances around that game. Now you come in with Belk, with DeAnton Lynn, there's a structure. These games mean more. There's more at stake in terms of making a mistake. So how does he channel that aggression within the structure? And I think that's why the coaching staff is there. So that's what I'm going to be looking for from Beavers the next couple of months. But I just love his approach and his tenacity. It reminds me a lot of Blackman in that sense, where he's a dog. He wants to compete. He wants to go after it with guys. So excited to see where he grows.
Ryan?
Yeah, I won't add too much to that. But yeah, it was so fun to watch him down at Petco in the Holiday Bowl, and just hadn't one of those guys that hadn't been given a ton of opportunity until this, the leading up to the Holiday Bowl. And so what'll be interesting to see is now with this coaching change, with Belk. I think Belk was hired like a day before the Holiday Bowl, but probably wasn't on staff, obviously. So seeing what this room in general, but especially for these young guys, what that looks like. But everything Jamal said, it's be curious to see where he kind of lines up and if they use him in different situations like nickel or whatnot, or if he's truly just kind of a too high safety look. But obviously that great play that he had that kind of sealed the game. So really fun to see his development moving forward.
So this next kid, I think this was his first start, and he got the defensive MVP right out the gate, right? And had 15 tackles. Don't quote me. Hold on. I actually have a stat pack still. Sorry, the baby put it on the floor, but I got it right here.
Stat pack, still have it. I love it.
Still have the stat pack.
And while you're looking for that, he started quite a bit, but he's more of a nickel than a true safety, but he played quite a bit.
They don't have it on here. They just
had to have been, 13 tackles, perhaps, something like that. It was 13 to 15.
Yeah, it was a really good number. I'm just really curious about it.
Yeah,
but
it felt like it was all solo too.
Yeah,
I'll look it up while you guys are talking.
It was we'll talk. It is Jaylin Smith. So, like Ryan said, he started more in nickel, which apparently is out of position because now he played as a true safety, and he played a hell of a game, right? And just like that, he got defensive MVP because he had all those tackles.
12 tackles.
Yeah. 12 tackles, right? So that just explains the Alex Grinch era, right? You put a kid completely out of position and he doesn't shine. You put him where he belongs, and all of a sudden, defensive MVP against one of the top schools in the nation, 10-3, right? Playing for a conference championship. And he played well. Like I said, there's a bunch of upside. He got the reps, got a chance to start. Where does he go from here? You know what I mean? That's the next question. Like, this is another kid. Where does he go from here? So I'm excited to see his growth. I'm excited to see where he goes from here. Another one of the things that I'm excited to see is how do they compete? That's the next question I want to see because the kid we're going to talk about next is coming in and it's going to make them compete. So how does he compete? Ryan, what do you have to say about him?
Yeah, aside from his play on the field, I think he has a ton of talent and showed flashes all throughout the year. And obviously they climaxed or the exclamation point in that game of what he can really do. But for me, he feels like a guy that can be the true leader of this defense. Coming back again and been in the program for a while. A California kid. And, if you've heard him in interviews, very well spoken. And I think he's just very savvy in terms of talking to the media. And so not that makes you a team leader by any means, but I think just interactions with him and seeing how he is and how he plays on the field. That's what I want to see is does he take kind of the reins of the, not just the leader of the back end, but like the leader of this defense that is going to have a lot of new faces, obviously a whole new system, whole new scheme, all new coaches. And so he's a guy that, along with a few others being kind of the guy that's been with the program almost the longest, how does he take the leadership reins? So great player, tons of talent, but I think it's more the mentals and the leadership that I'm looking forward to seeing kind of what he takes control of.
Jamal, your thoughts on Jaylin Smith?
Yeah, he's kind of my budding superstar. He's sort of my Jacoby Lane on defense. I just think that this is the guy with the biggest upside on the back end of this defense. And obviously a ton of publicity around that Holiday Bowl game with the 12 tackles, as Ryan mentioned. But he had 3 games. In this sort of spot start, scattered rotation, call it the Grinch effect, if you will, of keeping guys out of position. 3 games with 10-plus tackles. It was the Holiday Bowl game. It was the crazy 50-49 game against Cal. And then it was the crazy 43-41 triple overtime game against Arizona. And in a lot of ways, that Cal game, he put a stamp on that game in so many ways. He's the one who kind of created the volatility there in that fourth quarter that allowed some turnovers to happen on the Cal side for SC to jump back in the game. If you recall, SC was behind even in the fourth quarter of that game. His activity, him flying around with the ball, really kind of created a kind of a chaotic tempo with Cal when they were humming the ball down the field. And I thought he was a tremendous game changer there. And then he had a huge role in the Arizona game, and particularly in the comeback after SC fell behind by 2 or 3 scores earlier in that game. So he's already made an imprint on a lot of different games. I think people forget. A lot of people remember that the UCLA game, the Victory Bell game, with kind of the scoop and score play with Marshawn Lloyd. That touchdown before on 3rd and goal when Ethan Garbers kind of flipped it over for a touchdown at the start of the second half. Jaylin Smith was hanging on Ethan Garbers, almost made kind of the play of the game there for SC. So he's been in a lot of great situations, just sort of scratching, again, the surface of what he's capable of doing. This is the guy with the biggest upside. I see a world here where in many ways, obviously, we're so kind of quarterback-centric and defensive line-centric in the game today in terms of stats. But in so many ways, I see Jaylin Smith and Jacoby Lane kind of being the MVPs of this team in 2024 on both sides of the ball.
I'm surprised you didn't mention the next guy we're going to bring up. The thing that I really am seeing, though, is a lot of these guys getting drafted high. And the reason why I say that is because when you look at it, Zion Branch could play in the box, right? Jaylin Smith could play in the box. Damn, we were just talking about him. Beavers could play in the box, right? All 3 of those guys could legit play in the box, right? And that gives you a extra notch on your belt when it comes to draft evaluation. He could play over the top and he could play down and run support. He's one more. So you could have a string of guys getting drafted on Thursday night out of USC. That's safety, and it could become a DBU type of thing. Maybe. I'm not saying it's going to be, but maybe you could see that trend happening. So it's really interesting. So I hope they grow on it. So, and like I said earlier, competition is going to be the main thing, right? So they bring in D'Anton Lynn from UCLA, and then Kamari Ramsey transfers in with D'Anton Lynn, who's one of the top safeties in the Pac-12. We'll just say the Pac-12. We won't get everybody all riled up. We'll just keep it within the Pac-12, which is really good. Jamal, you actually called this when I was talking about Damani Jackson, how he was like Kamari Ramsey, that could be a really good defensive backfield.
Yep.
It still can be, and we saw that it can be. Kamari Ramsey brings leadership to the table that we always felt was missing from the defense. It also brings this. Safety is one of the smartest people on the defensive field, right? And you're bringing in a guy who already knows the defense and could put a lot of guys in the right places. Does that take reps away from Beavers and Branch? Yeah, maybe. But those guys are young and they could wait their turn, right? So if you get Kamari Ramsey and Jaylin Smith in your defensive backfield, right, as your 2 starting safeties, you're starting to look pretty good now. And most people run 4-2-5. So Beavers and Branch also have an opportunity to play. But with Kamari Ramsey, he brings in the knowledge and the leadership that's needed and a little bit of that grit. Because the UCLA was a little bit tougher than USC this year. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Brings that grit. Puts that tough exterior back on the defense. So I'm excited about this transfer. I'm excited to see what competition this creates because the people who stayed and decided to play said they're going to try to compete for a starting spot. So that's really great. I'll pass it to you, Jamal, being a part-time Bruin and a former Bruin coming in. I'll let you go first. How do you feel about this Kamari Ramsey coming in?
Yeah, Fred, you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, that's why I felt that Jaylin Smith kind of had the biggest upside from kind of an athletic perspective, from an athleticism standpoint. But when you talk about kind of future leader of this unit, it is Kamari Ramsey. There's no question about it. UCLA kind of gave him the keys to the kingdom kind of that second half of the year as a first-year starter to really be the guy on the back end, calling the plays, calling the defenses, really being that captain of the secondary back there. I think he's got tremendous instincts to the ball, from kind of deeper situations. And then he's also got really an understanding of kind of the geometry of offenses. And I think it comes from the fact that, this is a very intelligent young man. It came down to Stanford and UCLA for him, actually straight out of high school, ended up picking UCLA. And just, I think that the deep relationship that he has with D'Anton Lynn. D'Anton Lynn is the reason Kamari Ramsey is a USC Trojan right now, him and John Humphreys. And so I think there's a tremendous amount of trust with D'Anton Lynn and Kamari Ramsey. And particularly for Lynn, coming into a new situation, really needing to evaluate so many variables right now for Lynn. I think he's kind of coming in and saying, look, I think all 11 spots right now potentially are open in terms of how I'm thinking about it. But when you have someone that's coming back that you completely trust, I think he's really going to lean on Kamari Ramsey, particularly in 24, to be that captain of the secondary. You mentioned it, Fred, grit, instincts, knowledge, poise, athleticism. He's really got it all. Really bright NFL future here. And when you combine sort of his knowledge with the explosiveness and upside of a Jaylin Smith, you're now starting to bring versatility to that secondary where you can play a lot of different offenses over the course of the year in the Big Ten. You can play kind of more power offenses like Wisconsin, bring guys up in the box. You can play more spread it out, explosive offenses a la Ohio State and potentially Oregon, and you can just have a lot of different variety, more play action teams like Penn State, for instance. So it just opens up a versatility that you can start matching up with more and more teams in the Big Ten. So I really love kind of that combination. Hopefully they stay Trojans for a couple of years and there's something to build here, because if one of these guys kind of blows up next year, guess what? That's sort of 3 years removed from high school and they're already eligible to go to the NFL draft. So you want them to blow up, but maybe not blow up so much where you get a couple of years out of them.
You want him to be a fourth rounder and then be like, yeah, you should come back and exactly. Just not. So there's two questions. I'm pretty sure you know this. Where is he from originally? I think he's a Southern California kid, right?
SoCal kid is Ramsey. The high school is evading me, but yeah, he's a SoCal kid.
All right. And the second thing is, do you think he'll say USC or UCLA is harder academically? Because I think it's USC.
I love that question. Well, let's see. Let's see him kind of get in. The one thing I'll say is the athletes always say UCLA, and I'm not like trying to stir the pot here, because I would never. I mean, when do I ever stir the pot? But I think the quarter system is a lot harder on athletes than the semester system. So I think
it's faster.
UCLA kind of is a more rigorous situation for the athletes.
Yeah, it's a little bit faster. It's what is it, condensed into 8 or 9 weeks or something like that?
10 weeks versus 16. You know what I mean? So it feels like you're just always in exams every 3 weeks and all of that stuff. So
I got you. Ryan, how do you feel about Kamari Ramsey?
Yeah, and I just looked. He went to Sierra Canyon in Chatsworth. So
okay, there you go.
But yeah, again, won't add a ton. I think this is one of their biggest transfer portal gets as a redshirt freshman. Knowing the defense is probably one of the most important things, is coming in and just being able to dictate what needs to be done on the back end, playing it in a year, playing in the system for a year. But then obviously just had a very good year and was on a top 15 defense in UCLA and carries that pedigree over with him to USC. So I won't add too much. I think it's a phenomenal get. We talked about it when he first transferred, how he was him and John Humphrey coming over together. And I mean, the safety room, we still have 2 guys plus 2 transfer guys to get to. It's a deep room. And I'm curious if any guys, I don't want to start thinking like Grinch or anything, but if any guys will move to corner to try to have a better shot at playing. Because even if you go, 5 deep, you're still probably only playing 3 safeties back there. And there's 4 that could potentially all be, spot starters in this room, maybe 5.
Yeah. So there's one more transfer. The kid from Oregon State, right?
Yeah. So Akili Arnold.
Akili Arnold. There you go. Thank you for the
assistance. And then Christian Pierce is the other safety that was a freshman this year.
Yeah. Christian Pierce. I was going to get to Christian Pierce. So, I mean, as we say, we're freshmen. We really don't get to play Christian Pierce. Like, high guy. They're probably still high on him. He's staying. So the most important thing is, let's just talk about Christian Pierce real quick. The most important thing is that he's staying, right? It's easy for him to be like, I'm not going to play. They're bringing in another guy. I'm ready to bounce. He's staying. He's going to see this thing out. He'll get some valuable reps in the spring. Hopefully he competes. And then, for him, if the game is too fast, the best thing for him to do is to make the play by getting on special teams, and that slows the game down, which slows the game down for me. I can only speak for me in my experience. Playing special teams slowed the game down. So seeing him on special teams reps and those types of things will make him better. But not a ton of film, but he's still a Trojan. That's the most important thing, right? Seeing guys who don't play their first year and they're still Trojans. So I'm good about that. So we'll move on to Akili Arnold.
Real quick, Al.
Go ahead.
I saw this earlier that our buddy USC Jay did a video comparing him to Taylor Mays, Christian Pierce.
Christian Pierce?
I don't know if that's accurate, but that's what he said. Yeah.
That means he's a big kid.
Yeah, he is a big kid. And
So
I'll have to hit up he went to Rancho Cucamonga High School, which my cousin is a professor, or I guess in high school it's just a teacher.
Yeah.
A teacher at. I'll have to hit him up if he had him in his class ever.
So if Christian Pierce is as big as Taylor Mays, this is just me evaluating today's football game, and I would love to hear your parent opinion on this. So I like you guys because you guys know this stuff way more than me. I just know names and I watch guys play. But if Christian Pierce is as big as Taylor Mays, what do you think it would be better for him for today's game, for him to move to linebacker than to stay at safety, right? Because Taylor Mays was 6'3", like 215, almost 220 and as a freshman, right? And today's linebackers are like that. He's only going to get bigger. So instead of trying to maintain his weight, just let him do what he has to do and let him be free and let him be a really fast linebacker, especially if he could tackle, especially for today's game. Like, I think that change is worth moving and putting him at the linebacker spot. What do you think about that, Ryan?
I mean, he came in, I think, at like 6'1". He's bigger than that now, a year in, especially with the new weight program they're doing, since with the new changes. But I mean, that's interesting as we keep saying now in this show, how deep the room is. Like, that might be a good opportunity for him to go play backer. It'd be interesting to see if he is that size.
Man, what do you think?
Yeah, he's right on that line where you're not sure. He's not as big as Taylor, and but he's getting there. But it's still probably a 10-pound difference, even at best, to Taylor. I mean, Taylor was just a different dude. I mean, that was unreal. One of the great anomalies to me is still how Taylor just wasn't an all-pro at the NFL. It's just still one of those mysteries to me, just because of how physically gifted he was. I think Pierce probably will come in maybe 205, maybe a little south of 205. He came in 195. You don't want to put on that much weight either to kind of get used to a position. Here's where it gets interesting for me. And this is where I think Lincoln Riley has to kind of come in as like the CEO at times. You've got a really deep room. You're in a situation where the transfer portal is always available to these guys, right? And so you have a couple of choices here. You let the competition do its thing, and then you let attrition do its thing where guys leave in the transfer portal, or you do some things where you're moving guys around. Obviously, you want the best product on the field. But here's a very interesting scenario. What if Pierce ends up being a guy that takes one of Zion Branch's spots? And what if Zion Branch becomes a little bit disgruntled? And now Zion Branch is very close with his brother. Now, are you sort of in a situation now where both the kids transfer out of SC? I mean, we just talked about them kind of anchoring here, but these are now some of the dynamics that have to kind of go into some decision-making sometimes when you have sort of a package deal with brothers, when you have the transfer portal, when you have so much leverage that goes to the player. Zion is in a different situation as Zach. He's in a deep room. It's very competitive. He's showing flashes. But if he gets disgruntled, they're very, very close. Can you really see a world where, Zion transfers and Zach doesn't? And so then, if that's the case, how do you sort of play it? These are some of the things that I think Lincoln Riley is going to have to just kind of keep his eye on. Obviously, you want to put the best product on the field. You don't want to compromise in any way. But if you can set yourself up for success sometimes with other positions as well, you just need to be mindful of that. It's a different way of coaching now in this transfer portal era. So Pierce, if he's showing kind of growth physically, which all indications are that he is, I think to your point, Fred, it's worth exploring what the linebacker room looks like and how he can play a role, particularly kind of getting side to side. We saw how important kind of really good linebacker play is when you're playing really explosive offenses. I mean, Michigan was sort of exhibits A, B, and C in that national title game. But also, if you can kind of kill two birds with one stone of sort of ensuring that Zion Branch has every opportunity to succeed here, so Zach also stays, hey, maybe that also goes into the decision-making.
That's some very good forecasting right there, Matt, man. That's conflict resolution. That's what you call that.
There you go.
Well, we just saw it in reverse, right? With the Arnold brothers, both coming from Oregon State.
Exactly.
Granted, they had a coaching change, so a little different, but it's a package deal sometimes.
It's a package deal sometimes.
Speaking of the Arnold brothers, we're going to go into Akili Arnold. So I think he's going to be a victim of a package deal and us needing a linebacker. That's just us needing a bigger, bulkier linebacker. His brother was the top-rated guy in the transfer portal, but he wasn't. Correct me if I'm wrong. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're correct. Akili was all Pac-12, but the linebacker, I think, was a higher-rated transfer, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I understand. So I don't think he is there. He's there to compete. Let me say this the right way. Everybody is there to compete to start, but I think he's there for the depth, if that makes sense, because of it's a different ball game now, and you're coming from a different school where there is competition, but it's not. I don't know. It's Oregon State. You know what I mean? And
what does that mean, Fred? That it's Oregon State.
Yeah,
Fred's about to start some riots. In Corvallis. What does that mean, Fred?
Here's the best way to put it, and we saw it with the Texans this past weekend, right? The lights are a little bit brighter. You know what I mean? At the Coliseum. There's a little bit more pressure. There's LA Times, Orange County Register, the Daily Breeze, like National, ESPN, Southern California, Bleacher Report, USC. Like, there's a lot more.
LA Football Network.
LA Football. Well, we're not.
There you go. Say it loud. Say it proud.
Yeah, come on, baby.
But we're a respectable source. We want these kids to succeed. We're not looking for the junk stories like these guys are, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just the lights are a little bit brighter and there's a little bit more pressure, right? And he could be really, really good. And I've seen this happen. He could be really good in spring, really good in fall. And they'll be like, oh, he earned the starting spot. But then when that 80,000 gets up on you and everybody's watching you and it's a little bit different, I just don't think he's prepared for that. And I don't know. And I hope he proves me wrong. You know what I mean? It'll be great to have a bunch of safeties. We got 2 more safeties coming in as freshmen, right? That's almost 8 safeties in the room, which is great depth, and it'll get you through injuries and everything like that. I just don't think that he has played in this under this pressure. You know what I'm saying? Everybody else has played under this pressure. Even though Kamari Ramsey was at UCLA, he was still in LA. LA media, it's New York is number 1, LA is number 2. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a little bit different compared to being tucked off in Corvallis, Oregon. And like, yeah, I know I'm talking rambling, but I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. And I apologize for that. Jamal, help me out. Fix me.
No, I mean, essentially what you're saying, Fred, is you're calling Akili Arnold the Isaiah Mobley of the USC football team. Is that he is sort of the package deal. 3 years ago, the basketball team wanted Evan Mobley. He was the prize. Isaiah Mobley was the brother. He came along with Evan, the year before to sort of pave the way. And you're essentially saying Akili Arnold is sort of more not the throw-in, but the supplementary piece to Mascarenas Arnold, who was really the key of this get. And I agree with you. I think Akili Arnold did some really nice things. Obviously, this year he had 25 tackles. He had 2 interceptions. Oregon State runs a really complex and physical secondary scheme. And I think he did a great job being a rotational piece and also just being one of the team leaders. I think having said that, he's going to realize that this is kind of a different level of athlete and competition that he's going to face. And so I think Akili Arnold is going to be a very viable rotational piece. I think he's going to bring a lot of experience. I think he's going to bring a lot of toughness. So I think he's going to find a niche for himself. But I think to your point, Fred, I think the greater upside, the higher potential for kind of leadership and bigger plays, I think rests with the Ramseys and the Smiths than it does with Akili Arnold.
Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think when the transfers first happened, I was like, okay, there's your 2 starting safeties next year, Kamari Ramsey and Akili Arnold. And then, if they do put Smith though as a true safety, or after seeing what Anthony Beavers did and if Zion's healthy, I think he's more of maybe a depth piece or a competition piece to push, and he may still end up winning that job. But I think he's an addition to the room now, not the slot in starter that I maybe originally thought when he transferred in. But great player, played in a great defense. And it's a deep room. I mean, it's wild how deep it is going into this year. We'll see who stands out and who shines out and who claims the roles. But Arnold certainly has that and will either push anyone up forward, or if injuries happen like they did last year. I mean, the safety room was pretty decimated with injuries last year. It's great to have this depth, or if he ends up winning the job, then, they've got very competent and starters that have a lot of experience then with Ramsey and Arnold, if it is those two.
The one thing, Rye, I'll say also to your point is I think Akili Arnold will bring an element of leadership to this team because he had to wait his turn at Oregon State. He was at Oregon State 4 years, really didn't play very much the first 3 years, and then this past season got an opportunity and did an absolutely terrific job. And so I think he's going to be a really nice leadership piece to put his arm around some of the younger kids and say, hey, listen, it's sometimes these things take time. Don't get down on yourself. Don't quit. Trust the process. Sometimes these things, we all have different kind of growth trajectories. Look at me. Look, I'm here now as a leader of this team after sort of the journey that I've had. So I think with Akili Arnold, so much of his value could also be a rotational piece on the field, but there could be a lot that we see behind the scenes off the field where he could be sort of a galvanizing force.
Yeah, I agree, and the fact that you say that, it worries me now. It's a coach's worry, and I say it from this aspect. How long does it take for him to develop, right? And he only has 1 year. How is he going to be able to pick the defense up? And if he can't pick the defense up, he kind of becomes a liability when he gets put in the game. But he is creating competition. He is a leader. He has played college football for 4 years. So he has the ability, and he's, like Ryan said, he was first team all Pac-12. So he has the ability to be really good and shine. The question is, how long does it take for him to develop? Can he come in right now and develop, or is he a developmental guy that takes multiple years? That's the question I'll be out. But spring football will be really good, and there will be a lot of depth in that safety room. Excuse me. Ryan, are any of those freshman safety already on campus? That's like a thing now. Everybody early enrolls now. That's like
every day. I can't imagine just leaving high school after Christmas and being done. And going to college. But so the 2 incoming are Marquise Gallegos, also from Sierra Canyon, 4-star, and then Jarvis Boatwright out of Clearwater, Florida. I'm not 100% sure about Boatwright, but I thought this was interesting. I saw it right before we jumped on, so I didn't even fact check it. So if I'm putting out false info, I hopefully not, but I literally saw it and then we jumped on here. But Gallegos was invited to the Polynesian Bowl down in Hawaii, and he decided to skip it and stay on campus at USC to go in the workout program. And apparently he's already gained 10 pounds of muscle or something. I don't know if that's factual or not, but that's what
not factual. He's only been there for a month. You don't gain 10 pounds that fast.
But program, obviously that's that's high marks there. So just more depth and youth there as they get 2 more, safeties from this freshman class, I think will be good.
Yeah, that'd be great. So if we count, that's 9, right? We'll say 9. It sounds like 9.
I look 9.
Sounds like 9. We'll take it. Sounds like 9. So
but I wish I took a math class with you at SC. That would have been fantastic to tell one of the professors. It sounds right.
It's close. I work in construction. We'll be like, it's close enough. It's off by a third. It's close enough. Make it work.
I think it's 8. 4 returning, 2 transfers, 2 recruits.
There we go. 8. Sounds like 9. Told you, Jamal, I was close.
There you go.
Sounds like 9. Hey, you guys asked me earlier, how's I doing? I'm not doing well. I will tell you this why. Because I missed my prop bet this weekend by one guy. I had Lamar Jackson 2 touchdowns, Zay Flowers on the under. I had the over with the Russian with Green Bay. And then I had Brock Purdy hit One person that hit, that was CJ Stroud. He did not hit. I had him over 2 touchdowns because I thought he was going to do better. And if you want to do those prop bets and have fun and make your entertaining weekend, go to underdogfantasy.com or go to the Underdog Fantasy app on the Google Store or Apple Store. Put in USC LAFB and you get $100 welcome bonus. This weekend, you got your opportunity to put in your championship parlay. You can start at 2 and go up to 6. That's underdogfantasy.com. USC LAFB to get your $100 bonus. One player off, Ryan. One player off, and one of them was the chili pepper. So it'd been like I did it for $5, and I would have got $187.
Worst. You want to hear my bad beat from this weekend?
Go ahead.
Ooh, this will be good.
Luckily, thank God, I had others miss. I think I had 2 of the 5 miss, so it wasn't just this one, or maybe I had even 3.
You have the running back from Buffalo.
Yeah, James Cook. Over-under was 61.5. He had 67 yards going into the fourth quarter and got -6 yards in the fourth quarter.
Oh,
61.
Jeez.
I'm like, that's like scripted. Like, how does that even happen?
Jeez.
The halves kill me, so I'm gonna be looking into it. They don't put them up until Friday, but I'll look on Friday and see what we could get. See if I could redeem myself and come back from this perfect weekend. We gotta get Jamal on Underdog Fantasy.
So all I gotta say is Rye knows this. I've picked Lions Ravens since Thanksgiving. That was my Super Bowl pick since Thanksgiving. So we're in the Final Four here, and I'm riding with Lions Ravens here.
I'm curious. Oh man, that's a conversation for a different day. We can have that conversation later. The 49ers are just so good. They know how to overcome so much with their defense. Their defense helps them overcome a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Their defense.
No, I mean Ryan knows it's his favorite team, and he's passionate about it.
Definitely.
Don't put that on me, because that is not true. For everyone wondering,
don't you put that on me, Ryan Dyer.
So we started with the back. We'll hit the island up. I think we'll hit the island up next Tuesday because the island is really, really interesting because I was high on Damani. Damani's gone now, but those corners did a really good job this Holiday Bowl too. We got a couple of corners coming in from across town and from actually some transfer portal guys, and we have some incoming freshmen. So we'll talk about that next Tuesday because this Thursday we have a special guest coming in again. And this one will have the Twitter world buzzing. You guys thought you guys were buzzing off of El Chicano. Who we have for you guys coming on Thursday is going to get you guys going. And I love it. I love every bit of it. I love the interaction. I love you guys. I love our fans. Ryan and Jamal, I really appreciate doing this. It's been fun. We're getting out here in under an hour. That's rare. So you guys enjoy that too. Jamal's happy. Jamal, I just want to let you guys know this. Jamal's always like, we got to hit the sweet spot at 30 to 45 minutes. Got to hit the
and then
sweet
I'm the
spot.
one that ends up talking the most. So, it's
definitely. But I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all you guys fans. Let's do it. Hey, it's so fun. Let's do it again later this week. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
I appreciate you guys. You guys know how it goes. Live free, fight on.